Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome. Today's topic is John S. Ray's Oberlin College Diary, 1944, Part 4. This was originally published as a Zook Family Memories Collection, or ZFMC number 14, on December 18th, 1988. The time period is February 18th, 1944 to June 3rd, 1944. Just about wrapping up the sophomore year at Oberlin for my dear father. February 18th, 1944. I studied chemistry all evening with Tony. The hook on the dummy at Gable's gave way this evening, and the dummy, loaded with dishes, fell downstairs. Big mess. I have a bet on with Helen Simpson about my beard, and haven't shaved since last Saturday, and can't shave again until Monday morning if I'm going to win the bet. It's getting very itchy. February 19th. I studied chemistry for 8 hours with Tony. We've put in 40 hours this week on chemistry. What a damn fool trick. I finally shaved this afternoon after letting my beard grow for a week. February 20th. I didn't go to church this morning. I studied history, chemistry, and calculus today. Dad called this evening. February 21st. I studied calculus this morning and took the final this afternoon and think I messed it up. I will be lucky to get a B for the course. I also studied German. I am getting extremely fed up with studying. February 22. I studied German by myself this morning and all afternoon and all evening with Alba. I am so doggone sick and tired of studying it's pitiful. I'll have to get up in the morning and go over the subjunctive. February 23rd. I took my German and gym finals this morning and don't think I did too sharp. I got my calculus back this morning. That was a real blow. I got a 69 on the final and a C for the course. Boy, oh boy, that really throws things out of whack. I studied history this afternoon and this evening and got a date with Duffy for Friday. February 24th. I did nothing today but study history in the theology lounge and library. I worked on it this evening with Mary Martin on a study date. Tomorrow the chips are really down. It will either make or break me with Mr. Miller. February 25th. This has been a big day. I got up this morning and studied for my history final at 10:30 a.m., and I think I did fairly well in it. The chemistry final this afternoon was really something. I will be lucky to get a C for the course. As I look over the term's work, I realize that a 77 is about the best thing I can get with the lousy bunch of marks I've gotten. I'm planning to be put on probation next term by Mr. Miller for my Miller Scholarship. However, I can honestly say that it's not because I didn't do enough studying. Next term, $750 will be riding on every blue book in every course. It's not going to be fun, but I'll get my marks up next term if it kills me. Bruce Partridge left early this morning. Duffy took a rain check on our date tonight because Moose thinks he's going to be shipped out tomorrow. I went to the show with Lenny Arnold. February 26th. I worked breakfast this morning and caught the 9:03 a.m. bus for Sandusky. It was really fine to get home for a few days' rest. We left about 4:45 p.m. for Marion, Ohio. One of the recaps started to come off on the way down, and we had to put on a new wheel. We had dinner at Aunt Mary Fralick's this evening. Ginny and I went to Barbara's Girl Scout dance for a while and met John Clark, Zook, and Bobby. We also saw Mert and Dorothy Taylor at the Y, just like old home week. Then Bobby, John, Ginny, and I went to the show. Afterwards, Ginny and I went out to her house and made spaghetti. We really had an enormous Schwanzfest. I got back to Grandma Zook's at 4 o'clock a.m. A truly enjoyable evening. February 27th. I slept until about 1 o'clock this afternoon. We really had a delicious dinner at Grandma Zook's this noon. Then this afternoon we really had old home week. Kemmerly and one of his Marine pals stopped around this afternoon. He's in training at Chicago at a radio school. He'll eventually be a radar technician. He's grown quite a bit and really looks fine. Then a little later this afternoon, Roderick and Ferry stopped over. Jim has completed enough math courses for a major and is stationed at Columbus, Ohio, waiting orders. Ferry is still stationed at Wesleyan in the V-12 unit. Besides, the entire Marion relations, except Dale and Lenore, were here at one time or another this afternoon. Ginny called and wanted me to stay for her piano teacher's recital tomorrow night. However, enough is enough. We started back about 6 this evening and made it without any further tire trouble. The trip to Marion would have been perfect if Neil had been home on leave. February 28th. My German mark came this morning and was a B+ for the term. I went back to sleep until noon, and then went uptown this afternoon and bought a new pair of corduroy pants and a haircut. My brother Dick and I saw a double feature at the State Theater this evening. He drove up and back and did a good job. February 29th. I slept until noon again today and read all afternoon and wrote a letter to Ginny. The family played hearts this evening. This life of leisure is killing me. It'll be good to get back to school and start driving again. March 1st. I slept until noon again and read all afternoon. Then we went out to Uncle Fred Zook's this evening and played hearts. He gave me some really fine advice about getting an education. Then we came back and Dick and I went to the show. March 2nd. I left Sandusky this morning on the 11:35 a.m. bus. Mary Brohl came back on the same one. I put everything in order here at the house and then went out to pick up my finals. I got a C in both history and quant and a B in gym. I can't understand the gym mark at all. These marks give me a cumulative average of 77.31 for last term. I'm expecting to hear from either Mr. Miller or the dean shortly. I saw Bruce Partridge, and the crazy guy can hardly stand up. He gave nearly a quart of blood in an emergency case over vacation. He got either an A or an A+ in everything except calculus, which he hasn't found out about yet. Good man. We have 5 guys in the house this term. Roy Nakata makes the 5th. I had a big date with Mary Martin this evening at the all-college rec. We bowled for a while this evening. Ginny called tonight just to say hello. Rather odd thing. March 3rd. Classes started again. Freddie Arts was trying to scare everyone to death this morning as usual. I checked with Doc Morrison this afternoon about my gym mark. I think he'll come around next term. I made 5 reservations for the folks for the Horowitz concert in 2 weeks. Bruce got followed up with a C in calculus. He was really robbed. I got a call to check at the admissions office this afternoon. Guess what for? Right. However, things were much better than I had expected. I have neither lost the scholarship nor been put on probation, because my 3-term cumulative average is still above 80. My tuition for this term has been paid with no strings attached. However, my marks will have to come up this term, or I'll be put on probation next term. Mighty darn fine of Bill Seaman. I went to choir practice this evening. We only had 4 basses, a little solo work. Ev Adams and I went to the show afterwards. The more I see of that girl, the better I like her. So fine. March 4th. I worked breakfast this morning and was a little sleepy, so I laid down after German class. I didn't set the alarm and slept clear through lunch. First time that's happened. I spent all afternoon on history and didn't go to sleep once. Then I got a date with Mary Tomlinson, a frosh who called me for a leap week date. We went to the all-college at Hales. She's a southern girl and very nice, but not for me. For some reason today didn't seem like Saturday at all. Boy, oh boy, I certainly wish it were last Saturday at this time. Lots and lots and lots and lots. March 5th. I went to choir practice this morning and then to church. I read history all afternoon. All 5 of us got into a big card game this evening, and I lost 8 cents. We really had terrifically large meals at Gables today. I was stuffed to the gills. March 6th. I worked breakfast this morning and had a little trouble with calculus this morning. The weather has been very rainy and slushy all day. I slept over an hour this afternoon and studied over 5.5 hours this evening, mostly on history. Back in the rut. March 7th. We had our first Quant class and lab today. Mr. Broman said that last term had been vigorous and that this term should be easier for us. I hope so. I paid my term bill today, only $13.50. Then studied 6 hours this evening. It's after 1:30 a.m. March 8th. We had a very rugged gym class today. Gretch came back this afternoon and Bruce got lots. I studied all evening. March 9th. Chemistry is beginning to toughen up considerably. We're in the midst of complex ions and solubility product. We played our first house basketball game tonight with seminary. It was a terrifically rugged game. Bruce was slugged twice on his plate and darn near went nuts. We were taken 44-19. I managed to slop in 10 points. It's after 1 o'clock a.m. this time. March 10th. I managed to figure out the calculus problem I had to put on the board this morning. I went to sleep twice this afternoon. Then went to choir practice this evening. I skipped out on the party at James Brand House afterwards. Too many women. Weinstein and Nilsson had their big date last night. What a life. I'm going to bed early. March 11th. I got up and did my German before class this morning and worked on history the rest of the morning and until 4 this afternoon in the theology library. Duffy and I had a big date this evening. She is a wonderful dancer and a fine kid and seems to have been around. March 12th. I worked breakfast this morning and worked on calculus before going to church and then all afternoon. I worked on chemistry this evening with Tony. Bob Tarnow stopped in late this evening. He's leaving for the service before long, a really fine guy. March 13th. I worked breakfast again this morning and was kind of sleepy today. We started the Oberlin Date Bureau this evening in full swing and had quite a brawl, but didn't get much chemistry done. I will get up early in the morning to study. March 14th. I am afraid I messed up the chemistry quiz this morning. I'm thoroughly ashamed of myself. Mrs. Parker said that we'll either have to be more quiet up here at night or move out. I got quite a bit done in the chemistry lab this afternoon and went to chapel this noon for the first time in over a year. The convention gets underway today. We lost a basketball game to Dickinson tonight, 21-14. I only made 2 points. Then I did calculus and German after I got home. I am very sleepy. March 15th. I got to breakfast on time this morning for the first time in months. I was lucky and had a good German recitation. Then I worked on German this afternoon and chemistry all evening. An extremely dull day. March 16th. I worked all afternoon in the chemistry lab, getting started on my iron unknown. I haven't been feeling so fine today for some reason. I studied straight through this evening from 7:30 p.m. until 3 o'clock a.m. I believe it's the longest stretch I've put in for a while. Just 2 more integrations and I'll be caught up in calculus. March 17th. I finished up calculus this morning before class. The folks came over this evening and we all went to the Horowitz concert. I was so sleepy I could hardly hear the guy half the time. March 18th. I worked on calculus this morning and this afternoon and had another date with Duffy. We went to the Girls' Glee Club concert and then to the All College in Rec Hall. She's a fine kid. We had an extremely interesting double talk afterwards about goats. No joke, it was really good. March 19th. I went to church this morning and supposedly studied history this afternoon. However, I really got down to business this evening and learned something. Bruce came back from a date with Gretch this evening, moaning even more than usual. Unless I miss my guess, the lad is gone. March 20th. The history blue book this morning wasn't too bad. I probably got about an 83. I got a bad crick in my back this morning, or rather this afternoon in gym. Gretch, Bruce, and I went out this evening and we started paying off on our charts. Hudson had put Duff up for student council president. I had a petition made out for Bruce, but he decided against it because of the politics involved. I went out this evening and finished up on the CRD. Final pledge came to 101%. The lads really came across. March 21st. I worked nearly 5 hours this afternoon in lab on the iron unknown. We won our basketball this evening by forfeit. The calculus for tomorrow is a little too complicated for me right now. March 22. Put out quite a bit of work today and should get completely caught up in all my subjects over this next weekend. I got hit in the eye in gym and I'm very tired. March 23rd. I finished our first German book of the term this morning. Chemistry problems are getting tough. I worked until after 6 on the iron unknown this afternoon and lost one sample. Then I went to Glee Club practice. I can't seem to stay awake any later than 12:30 lately. March 24th. I got an 84 on the history blue book and walked innocently into calculus class and had an unannounced blue book. What a blow! Our chemistry blue book has been postponed for a week. More than 2 hours this afternoon shot working on the iron unknown again. Then I went to choir rehearsal this evening. I am too sleepy to do my German now. Ho-hum. March 25th. Mr. Kurtz cut our German class this morning. I went to sleep this morning in the theology lounge. We got together this afternoon in front of the house and practiced softball. It was a beautiful spring day this morning, but this evening it began to rain and then snow. Duffy and I went to the rec this evening, and I borrowed Perry's jeans. We had a fine old time. So far as she and I are concerned, it is exactly as I thought. She is mad for this guy in the army, and they expect to be married eventually. Well, she's still a fine kid, and I think we can still have some fine old times. Maybe I'm nuts, but I don't think so. March 26th. I went to church this morning and sang in the choir. Then I finished up tomorrow's history this afternoon. The integrations we have for calculus tomorrow are something that shouldn't exist. Real stinkers. Duffy asked me to the lit formal this afternoon. March 27th. I worked breakfast this morning. Ann Kennard asked me to have my picture taken with her in front of Yoakums for the Hi-O-Hi. Just another evidence of the violent shortage of men on this campus. This business of Duff's being up for student council president is getting very interesting. March 28th. The student council primary elections were held today. Duffer didn't make the primaries. I nearly finished my iron this afternoon and got started on S. We had a gallon of soup this evening. March 29th. I got 3 out of 5 points on the calculus blue book and just about average. It has been raining and snowing almost all day. We had quite a brawl here at the house this evening. March 30th. I got 8 hours sleep last night for the first time in quite a while. Then worked all afternoon in the chemistry lab. Then I went to Glee Club rehearsal this evening. I had fine letters from Harold Freilich and Jack. We raised quite a bit of hell this evening. March 31st. I went to choir rehearsal this evening and then to the variety show at the chapel, put on by the unit. The thing was very good. A surprising number of risque jokes were pulled. Larry Lucas was terrific on the piano. I was dead tired when I got home. To hell with tomorrow's German. April 1st. I was so tired last night I forgot to mention the April Fool meal we had last night at Gables. What a fine time. We all dressed up in old clothes, put signs all over the place, tied chairs together, had old bottles with candles in them on the tables, put bowls of water and straw at each table, and just acted nuts in general. A big success. I didn't get up this morning in time to get much German done, but got through class okay. I studied the rest of the morning and all afternoon in the theology lounge. I only went to sleep 3 times. I had a big rec date with Corinne Dorff, a fine frosh and has been around. Bruce and I pulled a rather ornery trick on Duff and Hudson this evening. April 2nd. I went to choir practice this morning and then to church. The lads here in the house discussed the little episode last night. I went to Glee Club rehearsal this afternoon and had one of Parker's radios upstairs this afternoon and listened to the symphony. I was chosen to head the Student-Faculty Relations Committee of the YMCA. I also went to First Church again this evening where the 2 Glee clubs took part in the Palm Sunday service. April 3rd. I worked breakfast again this morning and went to interest group meeting this afternoon. Took 3 hours for the German assignments and started studying for the chemistry blue book. I will get nearly 8 hours sleep tonight. April 4th. I got up this morning and studied 2 hours for the chemistry blue book. It was extremely rugged. I don't have much of an idea what I got. I finally did some decent reciting in German and spent the afternoon in the chemistry lab. I'm using Duffy's marked-in German book. We had a very tough calculus assignment. We also went over to Serenade Yacht Club, but they weren't back from the concert yet. April 5th. I went to the student faculty committee meeting this afternoon and put in an order for Ginny's Easter corsage. I took 2 books from the reserve room this evening without signing for them. We got 300 milliliters of ethyl alcohol from the chemistry lab this afternoon. The lads got together this evening and mixed it with sugar, fruit juice, and water and had a really great old time. I'm afraid the lads thought I was drunk. All in all, a big charge. April 6th. I worked in the chemistry lab all afternoon. The bottom of my iron crucibles blew out and I had to start a new sample. I came home on the 7:05 bus to Sandusky. There was an old World War I vet who was drunk on the bus. He, some Oberlin kids on the bus, and I had a very unusual time. April 7th. I slept till noon today and read 75 pages of history this afternoon. My brother Dick and I went to the show this evening. It was flesh and fantasy and very good. April 8th. I read history all morning and part of the afternoon. We left for Marion, Ohio about 3:40 p.m. and had a delicious meal at Grandma Zook's this evening. I found out that Ginny and Mr. Strauss were expecting me uptown for dinner, so I went on uptown and talked with them while they ate dinner. He's a typical conservatory man. Then Ginny went to her house, I went along too, and we had our usually large evening. I got home about 2 a.m. April 9th. I slept through till noon today and missed going to church. First time this has happened on Easter for quite a while. We had a delicious dinner at Aunt Helen Lacey's this noon. I played 15 games of ping pong with Frederick and won 8. I finally finished reading history, and then took an intelligence test and had an IQ of 133. I called Ginny and had an early evening snack at Aunt Helen Lacey's and came back to Sandusky in a driving rain. The 9:45 bus for Oberlin was 15 minutes late. It was a very crowded time getting back to Oberlin. I carried Lucy Boyden's suitcase down to Shirtlift from the bus station. All of the other guys are back. I worked on calculus for an hour. It's fairly late after 1 o'clock a.m. April 10th. Belknap worked breakfast for me. Good man. Had a new and much better prof for calculus this morning. We started swimming again this afternoon. Dan really worked us. I went to the Student Faculty Relations Committee meeting this evening. Tony and I paid off on our bets. April 11th. It was raining like mad this morning. I worked in the chemistry lab all afternoon. I don't understand the calculus at all. Very disgusting. It's raining again this evening. April 12th. The Blue Book in History was announced for next Wednesday. The national roster has been canceled. Hudson is stuck. Calculus was mighty tough. We played a vicious game of water basketball this afternoon. I brought home some dope from Gables and had it on ice cream. Mighty fine. April 13th. I nearly slept through breakfast and did pretty well in German this morning. I worked all afternoon in the chemistry lab, and the calculus this evening was very tough. Hudson is squirming. April 14th. I didn't get enough sleep last night and have been dopey all day. I had 2 fine letters from Ginny and Neil. Ann Kennard and I checked arrangements for the student-faculty discussions again. I went to choir rehearsal and walked Evie Adams home. Her whole family seems to be sick right now. Mr. Parker fixed the phone and Mrs. Parker brought us some fine apple pie. April 15th. I spent a large part of the day in the theology lounge reading 160 pages of history. The weather has been rather lousy. When I was in at Woods this afternoon, he offered me the job of head flower salesman on campus. That would mean working little but making lots. Duffy and I went to the Lit Society's formal at the Oberlin Inn this evening. She wore a strapless evening gown and looked really super terrific. We had a big schwantz afterwards out in the Gables garage in the back seat of the Dudley's car. Wow, that kid can really pitch it. Then I went down to Timmy's afternoon afterwards with the lads. April 16th. I went to the Y cabinet breakfast this morning and gave my committee report. Looks like good sport. We had a very unusual church service this morning. The service was almost entirely singing. Very good. I couldn't get the calculus this afternoon, so I went to sleep. I worked on calculus for 2 hours this evening and just barely made a dent. We're doing solids of revolution now, rugged stuff. I began studying for the History Blue Book Wednesday. April 17th. I had as many calculus problems done this morning as anyone in the class. Duffy had certain parts of William Tell underlined. It was really killing. The calculus we're in now absolutely stops me. I don't get it. To hell with it all. I'm going to bed. April 18th. We didn't have a chemistry quiz this morning. I left the chemistry lab early this afternoon to come home and do my German. The folks came over this evening, and we all went to Wanda Wendell's senior recital. It was really terrific. She's a fine girl. Then I came home and began studying for the History Blue Book in the morning. I'm planning to get up early and study. April 19th. I got up at 4 o'clock a.m. this morning and studied for the History Blue Book. I think it's the toughest one we've had yet. I'll be lucky if I got a B. I got caught up again in the chemistry lab this afternoon and got an A in the swimming tests this afternoon. Went to Glee Club this evening. Duffy had an interesting little figure in the German book. I'm a little tired about now. Ho-hum. April 20th. I'm fairly well finished with the sulfide unknown. I had a very unusual time this evening here at the house with the lads. I'm afraid we've got Hudson worried. April 21st. All of our plans are completed for the first week's student-faculty discussion groups. We had a violent game of water polo in gym this afternoon. Someone swiped Roy's CCL4 when I left it at the library. Someone also borrowed my bicycle this afternoon. I went to choir rehearsal and bought some Trojans for Hudson. Large charge. April 22nd. I got caught up in history and started my chemistry today. The weather has been lousy all day. Ginny got 2 gardenias for Duffy and didn't charge me anything. All the arrangements have been made for our hayride next Saturday night. Plans are coming along okay for the house softball team. Stimpson and Knox are demanding the labor draft. The draft picture changes every time I turn around. Duffy and I went to the Balmer dance this evening. We had a big time and a big schwantz. Bruce is really getting tangled up with Gretch. April 23rd. I worked breakfast again this morning. We had some delicious sweet rolls. I just barely made it to choir. We didn't do so fine. I worked on calculus all afternoon. Then went to the student-faculty discussion this evening at Mr. Love's. It was very interesting. April 24th. Big joke. I got an 86 on my last history blue book. Pretty lucky. I pulled up to date in calculus. Bruce and I helped Pop Dudley clean out the pool this afternoon. I had quite a talk with Dr. Broman this afternoon. I guess there's still a little hope left. April 25th. I found out that I'm only doing about B- work on German. I have got to get on the ball still some more in the course. Didn't get very much done in lab. Very disgusting. 2 unknowns are due this week. The sulfide results aren't coming out too well. All in all, a rather discouraging day. C'est la vie. April 26th. I got an A+ on the first German paper we've gotten back this term, and finished my sulfide unknown and discovered this evening that I'll have to do the damn thing over again, as I have a deviation of 27 parts over 1,000. I got a 96 on the iron unknown. I pitched our first softball game this afternoon. We lost because of poor fielding. Then I went to the meeting of nominating committee for the Y in Glee Club this evening. April 27th. I got a 47 or a D- on my chemistry blue book and 5 over 10 and 5 over 20 on 2 quizzes in chemistry. Not so fine. I worked all afternoon in the lab and have studied all evening. April 28th. We have a terrific calculus assignment to do over the weekend. I figured up the results on my base unknown, and they don't even come close. We'll try to do it over again tomorrow morning. April 29th. I worked in the lab all morning and turned in my base unknown at 12:30. My answers didn't come out so fine. Just plain luck if I got a good mark. I worked on chemistry problems most of the afternoon and played a little ball. It has been a beautiful day. Our hayride this evening was a bang-up success. Duffy and I had an enormous Schwanzfest. She asked me to the Gables formal next Saturday night. Everyone had a terrific time. Tom Morgan is staying here tonight. April 30th. I went to the Y cabinet meeting and then church this morning. Also worked on calculus problems nearly all afternoon out in the backyard in the sun. Beautiful weather. The Lacey family stopped around this evening and we all went to hear the Bach Mass. Very enjoyable. May 1st. Started my sulfide unknown over this afternoon. We lost our second house softball game 12-11. Hudson pitched a good game and it was a tough one to lose. I've studied chemistry all evening and think I've learned a little something. Duffy brought an ice cream cone over this evening on her bike. May 2nd. The chemistry blue book this morning was mighty rugged. I only answered about 75% of it. Probably picked up another D-. I cut German class to study for it. Got along fairly well in the lab. I've been studying straight through all evening. I'm going to lie down for about half an hour. May 3rd. I went sound asleep last night with all my clothes on. My snooze lasted until 5:30 this morning. Very strange night. An extremely dull lecture in calculus. I spent most of the afternoon playing softball in gym class and for the house. We won over White House by a forfeit. Hudson, Bruce, and I had an interesting bull session this evening on rocket ships, hoaxes, and hypnotism. I picked up Duffy at 9:30 at Gables and we went out to the Arboretum. Very quiet and dry. I had a long discussion back at Gables after she decided to take a late purr. Super terrific Schwanzfest also. A large evening. May 4th. I got up this morning and finished German in time for class. Worked all afternoon. I got an 87 on my carbonate unknown, which I tore off last Saturday morning. Damn lucky. I've been studying all evening. May 5th. We had an extremely dull calculus lecture. I don't believe that woman has taught us a thing this term. I did more on the sulfide unknown. I didn't have my shoes in gym today and had to run 2 relays in my bare feet. Hudson and Nakata both passed their Navy physicals. I went to the choir rehearsal and I'm very sleepy, so I'm going to bed early. May 6th. I got up at 6:30 this morning and took the 7 o'clock bus to Cleveland. Some big colored fellow helped me find the way to Uncle Ted Zook's office. He said that my heart will always have a scar, but it sounds better now than it did last year at this time. The doctor at the Merchant Marine headquarters said that just having had rheumatic fever was enough to keep me out of the maritime service. Uncle Ted advised me to apply for re-examination in the Army and to sign a waiver for limited service. I couldn't find an English translation of Frau Sorge and came back on the 12:30 bus. I was so sleepy I couldn't study this afternoon. I went to the Gables formal with Duffy and we had our usual terrific time. Big schwantz in the Dudley's car, a very large day. May 7th. I helped move all of the furniture back at Gables this morning. We had a Y cabinet meeting at Gibson's, and I sang in the church choir. I got caught up on history this afternoon and went to the student-faculty discussion this evening, while the rest of the lads went on a blanket party. Most disgusting. Duffy is going to Florida for a week to see Bagley. Lucky boy. May 8th. I did a little work on the sulfide. We lost our softball game to a fast-moving seminary team, 22-1. However, it was a lot of fun. I went to Glee Club practice this evening and got caught up on my German. May 9th. I got in about 6 recitations in German today. I'm nearly finished with the sulfide unknown now. We went to the interest group meeting this evening. The calculus is pretty tough. It has been very wet today. May 10th. A German blue book was announced this morning. I finished the sulfide unknown this afternoon. Here's hoping my results are good. Duffy and I had our Wednesday night fracas after club rehearsal. Fine time. May 11th. The sulfide unknown only rated a 68. Damn. Of all the things, the results were high. Aw, nuts. There goes my lab average down to a B. I picked up a 7/10 in a chemistry quiz this morning. Didn't get too much done in the lab this afternoon. Duffy got Hudson's bedside Esquire letter. Large charge. Neil has been washed out of the Naval Air Corps. Poor guy. 9 out of 10 of them were let go. The bright lights are finally beginning to shine in calculus. It's about time. May 12th. Miss Sinclair didn't take up our calculus again this morning. We knocked off the Regent Peabody softball team 9-5 this afternoon. They got 5 hits off me. Duffy had to break our date for tomorrow night because she's going home. Tough apples. Corinne already has a date with Cone. I went to choir rehearsal and then finished up the German. I'll get 9 hours sleep tonight for about the first time this term. Boy, oh boy. May 13th. I made some decent recitations in German this morning for a change. Got a very short haircut after class. It looks kind of funny. I spent the afternoon in shorts in the backyard studying German. We had an early supper because of the carnival. Duffy and I had planned to have a date until 8 o'clock when she would have to catch her bus. We went to the carnival, and coming back, she fainted on the front porch of Gables. So I carried her in and took care of her until she came around again. Then we went up to the review office, and she called her mother. Late in the afternoon, Bruce Partridge had talked me into a blind date. So at 10 o'clock, I would have had 2 women, because Duff had missed her bus. I talked to 2 swabbies into taking this other girl, and then Duff and I went to the all-college, and had a big, almost too big time afterwards. Careful, old boy. I am dead as of now. May 14th. I cut Y cabinet and church to study German. I studied in the hammock in the backyard until the sun dried the grass. Then the rest of the morning and most of the afternoon, I studied right out in the sun and got a dandy sunburn. I sang with the men's glee club in a vesper service at First Church. Our discussion group this evening was small but hot. We talked about fraternities and sororities. Very interesting. I am too sleepy to start calculus. May 15th. I spent about 3 hours this afternoon playing softball in gym and for the house. We lost a heartbreaker this afternoon to the faculty, 5-4. We lost it in the last of the 7th with 2 down. About 3 errors cooked us. Too bad. I have been driving on the back calculus assignments this evening. I got a picture from Miss Denise Darnell, the burlesque queen, this morning. Large charge. May 16th. I recited like mad again in German this morning and picked up another 7/10 on the chemistry quiz. Got a D plus or a 50 on the last chemistry blue book. The standardization of my AGNO3 came out pretty close this afternoon. The Y elections were held today. I was up for vice president. We ate out on the porch this evening at Gables. I've studied all evening. May 17th. We won our softball game this afternoon, 10-4. I went to Glee Club rehearsal and then had a date with Duffy. Large schwantz. Had her talked into a 12 per and then left. Why, I don't know. May 18th. I think I did fairly well in the German blue book this morning. I got a big birthday cake from Mother and finished Moore's Chloride and turned it in this afternoon, then wrote a German paper this evening. May 19th. I cut German class this morning to write a German paper that was due this morning and turned in our last 6 weeks' calculus problems. I had an 83. I got started on Volhord's Unknown. Bruce Smith knocked me off in the Y election. Then I went to choir rehearsal and got a date with Duffy about 10:30. She took a late purr. Lots of fun. Just 20 years ago today, I was born. Imagine, I'm getting to be an old man. May 20th. Miss Ilmer said that my work in German is finally up to par. I worked on chemistry problems 6 hours this morning and this afternoon. Duff and I went to the military ball and danced to Shipfields and his rippling rhythm. Really smooth band. We had a wonderful time. I sometimes wonder just why we have such fine times together. Better not think too hard about it. March 21st. It was pouring like mad. I went to the Y cabinet meeting in church and worked on chemistry this afternoon. It's been terrifically hot today. The sweat just pours off. May 22nd. I got quite a bit of calculus done this morning. We knocked off White House 17-1 this afternoon. I had a no-hitter until the last half of the 7th, when Nakata took it easy on a simple bounder, and the batter beat it out. Tough break. I got an 89 on Moore's chloride. May 23rd. The chemistry blue book this morning was a little easier than usual. However, probably got another D. I worked on Volhard's unknown this afternoon. Brett, Bruce, and Gretsch are having quite a time. I'm getting a little too far behind in calculus for comfort. May 24th. I got into an awful mess this afternoon in lab with my Volhard's chloride. I thought I was going to have to start it over, but didn't. Managed to pull things out within 1 part over 1,000. Just plain luck. Bruce and Gretsch are having some real trouble. I went to the Glee Club rehearsal and then over to Gables for Duff. Another good time. Bruce and I went over and painted General Shirtleff's statue after I got home. I painted and he watched. We only had our jocks on. May 25th. I turned in my Volhard's chloride and got started on my volumetric iron. Ginny Amerio, Carol Sholin, Bruce and I went out to Presti's for some wine about 10 o'clock. After we got back, Bruce and I went out to try to swim the reservoir again. The other lads in the house had gone out and beat us there. A jolly old time ensued with the cops arriving in the middle of things. The boys thought we were in the water at the time and acted as decoys. However, we had slipped out through the back of the arboretum. I have 28 large welts on me from some damn bugs that were biting me when we were crawling around the arb on our hands and knees with nothing on. I'm very tired. May 26th. I cut calculus this morning to do the calculus assignment and then found out that she had cut class. I was busy most of the afternoon getting my schedule made out and okayed. The fall term will probably be rugged with 2 chemistry courses and a physics course. The convention opened up this evening. The whole thing leaves me cold, so I didn't go. I stayed home and worked 6 hours on calculus. I'm finally caught up again in that lousy course. It's after 2:30 a.m. May 27th. I got my schedule signed up and turned in this morning. Had quite a talk with Dean Bosworth about being a counselor next fall. I studied history this afternoon in the backyard. It was really hot. This evening, Bruce and I went to the nonpartisan convention. Wendell Wilkie went in for president on the 3rd ballot, and Maynard Kruger for vice president on the 1st ballot. I made a secondary speech for Stassen for president and a nominating speech for Eric Johnston for vice president. It was really lots of fun. May 28th. I got up at 9 o'clock to go to cabinet meeting, but found out there wasn't any. I picked up Duffy at 11 and we went out to the quarry on bicycles. It has been a beautiful day. The water was terrific. We had a strictly fine time swimming, talking, eating, and getting sunburned, and got back at 9 this evening. I brought my history reading up to date. A very delightful weekend. May 29th. We lost to Regent Peabody this afternoon 12-10. I wasn't on the ball too much and allowed 8 hits and about 10 walks. I fell asleep this evening for 2 hours doing maps for the history blue book. May 30th, 1944. The chemistry lab was admitted this afternoon because of Dr. McLennan's funeral. I spent the afternoon in the backyard doing calculus. I worked on history all evening. An invitation to the Gables porch party came this evening with cards from 5 women in it. I'm getting very sleepy and very tired of memorizing these lousy maps. May 31st. I think I got about a C+ or a B in the history blue book and got an A- on the German blue book and an A- on the German paper. I got a 92 on Volhard's chloride. We lost to seminary this afternoon, 9-1. However, they only got 5 hits and 2 walks from me. A very good game. Duffy couldn't make our date because of a party of the senior women. June 1st. I think I finally got a good mark on the chemistry quiz. Things went fairly well in the lab this afternoon. I worked on calculus this evening and I'm nearly caught up again. I'll have over 80 problems to turn in tomorrow. June 2nd. I turned in 84 calculus problems this morning and did some work in my volumetric iron this afternoon. Bruce and I went to dinner this evening in a drenching downpour. Duffy and I went to the rec, the library, then over to the downtown roofs. Fine time. June 3rd. I didn't get too much work done today. I got Bruce Partridge a knit t-shirt for his birthday. Not nearly as many couples showed up for the Y banquet and dance as were expected. However, the thing went over very well. Duffy and I went to the Gables porch party. We were both rather tired this evening. However, it was a big evening. To be continued. Now we have 3 comments on this passage. The first is from the author, John S. Ray. Quote, ZFMC number 14 really transported me back to the Oberlin College days. Lots of studying and lots of fun. I had to maintain an 82 average on my grades in order to keep my full tuition scholarship from Amos Miller. As you can tell, I was only able to keep the scholarship with great difficulty. I would have had to drop out of college if I had lost the scholarship, so it was a matter of great concern to me. Some of the things about Oberlin College have been forgotten, but many are remembered, with great pleasure while reading ZFMC number 14. Thank you, John S. Ray, Cleveland, Ohio. And the next is from Isabel Stevens, my godmother. Quote, thank you for sending me the second-year diary of your father's attendance at Oberlin College. It is such fun to read of the trials and tribulations of chemistry, calculus, history, German, etc. courses, plus the extracurricular activities, all of which should prove the old adage to the effect that, quote, all work and no play makes John a dull boy. Despite his academic efforts, I think that his life was not dull. It is more fun to read when I realize that as he was writing, he probably never had a glimmer that many years later he would have a son who would be interested in his recorded memories. Isabel Stevens, Rocky River, Ohio. And the next comment is from Mark Ray, my brother. Quote, ZFM 14 is really great. Funny how Dad gets sick of studying. It's pitiful. It's fun to read and reminisce on my own college days at Oberlin. Mark D. Ray, Massachusetts. So that concludes today's presentation of John S. Ray's Oberlin College diary from 1944. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care. And I'll see you next time.